What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003 and starting to get very optimistic about this Pistons team. Ron Holland was not named to the NBA Rising Stars rookie-sophomore game for this All-Star weekend, but I wanted to make a video kind of just discussing my evaluation of him throughout the year so far, because I think so much of what he's doing right now is not showing up on the stat sheet. I think so much of what he's doing right now projects for him to be really good in the future. And I just wanted to give him credit where it's due and kind of talk about him in general, because it was disappointing for him to be snubbed from that Rising Stars game. I'm not at all surprised that it did happen because his counting stats aren't exactly jumping off the stat sheet, but we're going to get into all of that in this video and just talk about my full evaluation of him 50 or so games into the season so far. So to kind of backtrack, I've talked about it a lot on this channel, especially because I started this channel right before the draft this summer. I really was not that happy with the Ron Holland selection when it was made, due to the fact of the concern with the lack of shooting with Ron Holland. I have completely changed my tune on that, and that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about, and it's his shooting, because I think that this is one of his biggest swing skills, and it is a huge deal that this is trending in the right direction. When we look at Ron Holland's season so far, month by month, he started off in October shooting 11% from three, and then in November, 16% from three. So it was really, really bad to start off the year. The first 15 to 20 games of the season, just terrible with the three-pointers. He couldn't seem to make one to save his life. But then December came, and he shot 42% from three, albeit on low volume, but that's pretty solid for a whole month. And then he continued that into January, where he shot 32% on a little bit higher volume from three. So now we're starting to get to the point where over the course of the last 2 or 3 months, sure, he's not knocked down, he's not Peja Stojakovic or Dirk or Steph out there, but the shot has kind of became respectable, and I think that is a huge deal. A lot of people talk about Ausar or Ron potentially developing jump shots and what that could do for their outlook going forward. But I think that Ron is already so far ahead when it comes to Ausar as far as a shooter goes. I think that his mechanics have been better from day one. And I think that they're starting to become a real sample size of three-pointers here, where you can probably assume that by next year, he's probably going to be somewhere around 30% from three, which sure is not great. It's not knockdown, but it's enough to make teams come out and guard him when he catches the ball on the perimeter. And that is going to be a huge game changer. Another really good indicator as far as his shooting goes is the fact that on the season, he is currently an 80% free throw shooter. He is on the year a total of 53 of 66 from the free throw line. Unfortunately, out of those 13 misses, 2 of them were back-to-back at the very end of a very important Bucks game. So that isn't great, but all in all in the year, low volume, sure, his free throw percentage is pretty good, and that is typically a pretty good indicator for what a player can be as a shooter. So just kind of checking in at the All-Star break, I am very sold on the long-term progression of Ron Holland becoming a shooter, and I think that that will open up his game to a whole other level and be something that could potentially turn him into a star. Another thing, as far as the offense goes with Ron Holland, that I think is really important is he is getting pretty good at creating for himself in the half court. Ron Holland, since day one, has been a threat in transition. When you get him on the break, he is incredibly athletic. He can use those Euro steps to his advantage and be able to finish over top of bigger defenders or around bigger defenders. He's really good on the fast break, but throughout the past couple months, he has become better at creating for himself in the half court, and he's starting to use some of those same moves that we have always seen in transition on the fast break, but in the half court. We're starting to see situations where he catches the ball on the wing and he creates an easy paint touch for himself. He just glides past people, and then he can get into the paint and make a little Euro or a little hop step or pro hop and then score over top or around people with ease. I think one of the biggest things to watch for as far as progression goes is if he's able to kind of make those same moves while being a playmaker, because as of right now, when he does make those moves in the half court, he does get a bit of tunnel vision, but it's not the end of the world because he's so creative and solid when it comes to finishing that he's able to really kind of work around it and make it okay. So on the offensive end, I am just completely blown away with Ron Holland. I know that on the stat sheet, he's averaging 6 points per game, and it's not going to jump off to anybody. And the shooting splits of 44 and 25% on the season aren't great. But I just feel like I'm watching the start of a progression that typically leads to all-star caliber players. I think that if he's able to get that shot continuing to go in the right direction as it has been over the past couple months and really hone in that ability to create for himself, there is a lot to work with here for Ron Holland as an offensive player. Defensively is something we haven't even touched on yet, and it's almost the same situation as the offensive end, where I don't think the box score is telling the whole story at all. Defensively, it's always been tough to track in a box score. You can look at steals, you can look at blocks. He averages 0.6 steals per game and 1/10 of a block per game, which is like nothing. So if you look at that, you might think that he's a run-of-the-mill defender, but he is absolutely not. Ron Holland can guard the other team's best wing. He can guard the other team's best guard. There has not been more than 10 times this season where I feel like someone has actually took him to school and gave him a welcome to the NBA moment. He is not afraid of a challenge whatsoever. He has the athletic tools to back that up. The dude is great defensively. I've looked into the defensive impact metrics, where I think are kind of BS anyways half of the time. There's some that are okay and some that are really bad, so I don't read too heavily into it. None of them really point to Ron Holland being like the best defender on the team or anything like that, but based on the eye test, I think that he's definitely our best wing defender besides Ausar, and that's not really a knock on him because Ausar is all-world as a perimeter defender. And overall, I think he's probably our second or third best overall defender on the team behind Ausar and maybe Stewart, who has been incredible on the defensive end this year. So I think that Ron Holland has so many signs pointing in the right direction that he could be a star as soon as next year. I think that there's a real chance that he is starting on our team next year, and maybe not a star by then, but well on the way to being recognized around the league and by people on the outside looking in as someone who could really turn into that. And I have totally bought in on Ron Holland. I have a completely different outlook on Ron Holland as a player than I did in the pre-draft. I think that the shot mechanics look promising. I think that he can create for himself already. His ability to get to the paint and create with euros and hop steps and all sorts of moves like that is really impressive. The defense, it's already there. He's already great on that end of the floor. And I also have not seen the dude take a single play off any time this year. There has not been one play where Ron Holland hasn't brought it 110%, and there hasn't been a single night where I've questioned his ability to walk in and give it his all. So big fan of Ron Holland, and wanted to make a video just putting this out there because I get why he's not a rising star. I get why he's not in the rookie sophomore game for All-Star weekend, but I think that we need to give credit where credit is due, because a lot of those guys who might have better numbers than him, and that's why they're there, but they're not contributing to winning basketball the same way Ron Holland is. People throw around the term winning player, losing player pretty freely nowadays, but I can say with a lot of certainty, I think that Ron Holland is a winning player. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll catch up soon.